And for more, we welcome in two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and Bryant Hendrickson. He talked a big game, threatening to just sit out the season entirely, but now he's reporting to camp. I want to get your reaction to this news.
Well, number one, Keon, I never believed Trey Hendrickson would sit out the entire season, so that's fool's gold. But in terms of hearing the news right now, I think this is the first step in good faith between either side, Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals, just being able to make him feel comfortable enough, Kiana, to report. Now, granted, as you stated, he's not going to put on his cleats, put his helmet on until they get a deal done. But just having him around the guys, having him in the building is the first step in the right direction into what I believe will lead to an extension up to his standards for him to get on the grass with his teammates.
That's fair. Like you said, a first step in good faith for both sides. But let's be honest, because it's been a bit of a turbulent offseason for the Bengals. We had Shamar Stewart, who had been MIA due to the issues with the language in his contract. Then they finally get that settled a week ago with the rookie. But then still, Trey Hendrickson's contract dispute, it's anything but settled at this point. But do you at least have him in the building now? How much of a relief is that, just to maybe have one less distraction for this team?
Well, you know, if I was a teammate of Trey Hendrickson, if I was a part of Cincinnati, just hearing this news, I'm elated because I know what's next, right? What's next? When he gets into the building, he starts smelling the grass out on the football field. He starts seeing the helmets. He starts hearing the shoulder pads clicking against each other. He started being involved in the conversation, the training camp conversations that teammates oftentimes have. And guess what that will do? It will initiate that football fire to let's try to get something done. So if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, if you're a part of this organization, you should be jumping for joy right now, because based on what we have not heard leading up to today's news, it didn't seem like any life was being breathed into either side. But now hearing this news, this is the first step in the right direction. And I do believe sooner than later we will hear an extension being completed between Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals.
I think it's a big sigh of relief, not just for this locker room, but also Bengals fans who's had to ride the wave of what's been going on as of late in Cincinnati. But now I want to ask you, just as a former player, just what does his presence, being in that building, what does that mean? What does that do for this Bengals defense?
Makes them better. And it's hard to really imagine the type of individual year Trey Hendrickson had last year, because overall defensively they were horrible. But you're talking about, Kiana, 2 years of 17.5 sacks. I mean, he's been more than the one lone bright spot for the Cincinnati Bengals. And last year, his individual success didn't do a lot because everything else on the defense was not good. But now having a new regime there on the defensive side, when you look at having a new defensive coordinator, you know, having some more talented players added to that side of things also should help, along with Shamar Stewart, who they drafted in the first round, defensive lineman from A&M. So one would think if you can get both of those guys on the football field together, Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson, with their ability to win their matchups and put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, that should help out the second and third level guys on the defense. Because I know this much: if that offense is healthy, Kiana, they're going to score points. It's about getting the necessary stops that's needed for you to be in a position to win more so than lose.
Absolutely. Well, what do you consider fair market value for Hendrickson? I mean, you just mentioned it. 2 years of 17.5 sacks, last year's sack leader. He'll be 31 at the end of the year. Only missed 3 games throughout his career in Cincinnati. What's that value looking like to you, B-Mac?
Wow. I mean, unfortunately for me, I'm not in a position to really negotiate because I didn't put up 17.5 sacks. But I can say this: I can see anywhere between 35 to 40 million per year for Trey Hendrickson. And the reason why I say that is because you look at TJ Watt, you look at Myles Garrett. Trey has been overly successful, but I don't think the consensus would consider him to be in that same neighborhood of a TJ Watt and a Myles Garrett. 2 of the best pass rushers in the National Football League. It doesn't matter who you're asking. Those are the 2 guys you stop and you start this conversation with in terms of sacking opposing quarterbacks. But then after those 2 guys, I think that is the neighborhood for Trey Hendrickson. And that's not a bad neighborhood. That's a really, really good neighborhood with expensive HOA fees. So me personally, I think that is the common mean for Cincinnati and finding a way to get a deal done, because I think they feel like that's a deserving market, and it's up to Trey Hendrickson to say, yes, I agree with you guys, let's get a deal done. But anything less than that, no, it's not sufficient for Trey Hendrickson, and that's probably why he's been on the outside looking in and trying to wait and hold out to get a deal done.
Well, like you mentioned, I mean, Trey Hendrickson now reporting to camp. You said maybe that initiates that football fire inside of him. Well, maybe it also does the same for the Bengals, having him in that building and wanting to get that deal done as soon as possible. Bryant McFadden with the latest. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Take a look at Trey Hendrickson's numbers. Well, most sacks in a season by a Bengal. 17.5 back-to-back seasons, top 2 in franchise history. Somebody that you certainly want out there on the field, and you got to find a way to make that happen, Cincinnati. Hey, speaking of having someone on the field, I know the Jags are excited to have this guy, a unicorn, he calls himself. Travis Hunter, the Jags' offensive and defensive weapon. We talk more about him. That's coming up next.